Good evening and welcome to the Met Club's webinar series. I am Ian Walsh-Riley, President, and I'm so excited to host our second candidate spotlight. Tonight's guest is George Santos, candidate for Congress in New York's 3rd Congressional District, which comprises the North Shore of Long Island and Northeastern Queens. As a reminder, we have a Santos for Congress donation link in our live chat, and we hope you will consider helping flip this district red in November. And with that, welcome to the virtual Met Club, George.
Thank you so much. And this is awesome to be here with you guys. I know that you guys are working really hard during this pandemic to keep everybody connected. So this is absolutely great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, it's so important to focus the spotlight on candidates, especially at this time. So I thought maybe we could begin by having you tell us a little about yourself and your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm George Santos, 32 years old. Native New Yorker, born and raised in Queens. I'm a finance professional. I've been working in finance for 11 years. I proudly always say this, I followed in the footsteps of my immigrant mother. I'm first generation born American to the United States. And, you know, I'm very proud, I guess, of what I've been able to accomplish for myself in the last 11 years professionally. And I'm like I always say, if there's any proof that the American dream is attainable, hi, I'm right here. So that's, I guess, in a nutshell, that's me. I'm pro-cop, pro law and order, I'm pro-life. I believe in the Constitution of this country, and and I believe in our founding fathers, and most importantly, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So that's a good sum up of who I am.
Well, and being the son of immigrants, I'm sure the American dream is very important to you, and promoting it and making sure that others can attain it as well.
Absolutely. I think that it's totally unfair to see, this older generation of socialists, as I usually call it. Bloomberg said it best during the debates. America's most well-known socialist is a millionaire with 3 homes. So,
right.
Fact. Yeah. So, I believe in keeping it alive for the generations to come.
And your mother, both of your parents are from Brazil, but part of your background is from Belgium, or both?
So actually, yeah, my mother's family is originally, if we're going back into the early 1900s, Ukraine, and then they resettled themselves in Belgium due to religious persecution. Then in the 40s, religious persecution once again ran them out of Belgium, and we've become honorary Brazilians after that.
And I'm sure that they probably told you a lot about socialism coming out of Brazil as well.
Oh, absolutely. The reason my mom migrated here in the early 80s was they were fighting a socialist revolution in Brazil. So I absolutely have no love or respect for the art of socialism, or if you can even call it art. But yeah, it's not for me. It's not for this country. We're never going to be a socialist country, as our great president, Donald Trump, said.
Well said. Now, right before you decided to go into politics, what were you doing?
Well, I still actually, up until August 1st, when I initiated my leave of absence, I'm the regional director for Harbor City Capital. We're a fixed income shop. We are we're within the Fortune 500 private equity firms globally. I manage all of our fixed income assets with arbitrage here in New York. I'm actually Harbor City Capital head guy for New York City. We're based out of Melbourne, Florida. And I've been with the company now a little under a year. Prior to that, I've done my tour, I'd say, of due diligence through Wall Street, Goldman, JP Morgan, so on and so forth. So this is, I'm still currently employed, just on leave, so I can pursue the race.
Well, that brings us to our next question. With background like that, working in finance, working in the private sector, why politics? Why enter now?
Because the way I look at it is, I've always been somewhat political, right? My mother was very involved in politics. I've been a lifelong Republican. And essentially, although I absolutely think Donald Trump's done great for us in our industry, the moment I started seeing the threat of socialism creep in is when it really spoke to me. I mean, AOC represents the district I was born and raised in, and I still have a lot of family members in that district. It's like people like her really threw a bug in me and said, this is going the wrong way. And I guess it was the moment that really, made it pivotal for me was when she paid homage to Che Guevara. I said, whoa, no, I'm sorry, I got to do something. So, and if I wanted to really keep the American dream alive, somebody was going to have to go fight for it. So I said, why not me?
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned AOC and how she influenced you basically and inspired you in some ways to want to run, right? So on the flip side, oh no, go forward.
Sorry. Well, actually, she didn't inspire me. I was, if I were to say who I was inspired by, it's actually, great. Yeah, totally different. So I was totally inspired to run for office by Congressman Lee Zeldin. I mean, I watched his trajectory since he ran the first time for office and he didn't make it. Then he ran for state senate. And then his story was a story of working up the ladder. He represented his constituents with fervor in the state senate, then to Congress. He ended up in Trump's defense team. And yes, I was starstruck by Congressman Zeldin. And it's really fun because not only do I look up to him, but he's been super supportive of my campaign. Just today, our endorsement came out from him directly. So these things are that's really talking about inspiration. He did inspire me. But I guess Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez really just, confirmed that, look, he's doing it. Why don't you go join him and kick her butt, So that's essentially what the idea was. But in a way, I'll give her some credit. She got me up from my chair and got me to do something. So
she inspired you to combat her and her socialist ways. But it's interesting you mentioned that because they're of, I think, the same generation.
We are. We're both millennials. I'm 32. I think she's 29.
Well, even Lee. I think Lee is going to be, what, 40?
Lee became 40. Actually, I went to his 40th birthday party, January 30th.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So we're all in the same generation, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very interesting and great. Okay, so pivoting to your district itself, what are the top issues that you're raising?
District, that's where we're running, right? We attained 80%, 90% of the law enforcement endorsements, and we're still waiting on a few to come through. So I don't think we'll be 100%, but we'll be really close. So it's a matter of people. Here's what people in Long Island and Northeastern Queens want. Look, the part of Queens I'm from is suburban, right? Like, seriously, if you don't consider Whitestone a suburb, then you really don't know what a suburb is. Essentially, we just want peace and quiet when we come home from our busy job in the big city. We want safety. We want good school education for our young children, and the economy is important because we live in a very expensive part of New York, right? We're talking about property taxes averaging in the Long Island portion of my district, $26,000 a year. So the economy is very important for people to continue to afford their lives. So it boils down to these three things in my district.
Can you just reiterate the three things quickly? I think you had frozen at one point.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it is law and order, the economy, and public safety.
And also, I think people would be interested to know how your district has fared during the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So during the pandemic, and I have to, really separate the district now, right? Because New York, I have a part of the district that's actually New York City. And just today was the first day of indoor dining for them, right? So they're very far behind in Nassau and Suffolk County. But to weigh it out, and Suffolk County was the first one to reopen within my district, as far as restaurants and everything else, and then Nassau County followed suit a week later, and Queens is now following suit, but literally almost 3 months later, actually, Queens is finally reopening. So during the pandemic it was rough, but granted, the per capita of the district, a lot of my constituents and it's unfortunate for other districts, but a lot of the constituents within my district, the grand majority, 71% actually, were mildly affected, not financially, but more so socially, versus a lot of other districts, which that number is totally upside down, right? I'd like to say that we weathered it out. It wasn't pretty for any of us. But you know, I do know places who did worse, and that's unfortunate. But I guess we held ours together for the most part.
And when you do, I'm sure at this point you're doing canvassing door to door. What is that like? What is the reception? Are people willing to engage, or is it kind of?
So as far as engagement, so today we were out canvassing. We had out about 25 police officers come out canvass with us in Huntington and Suffolk County, which was super fun. These guys are energized. They're like, oh man, they got off of a shift and they're like, all right, let's do this. So we had a good time and people are excited to see us at the door. And Republicans are like, finally, you guys are knocking. Obviously, some I'd say people who are still considered at risk are still apprehensive, but I haven't seen a big rejection. I mean, we canvassed in Queens a week ago, and I think we laid out about 100 lawn signs in Queens, which is pretty cool in its own. I'm driving within my own neighborhood, and I feel like it's an echo chamber. I see my
That's great.
So it's pretty cool.
That's amazing. You've stated many times that local leaders in New York have failed their constituencies. Can you talk about what you mean by that?
I absolutely. So Lazio, everything wrong for every single constituent in New York City. I don't think single can actually say that with confidence. He failed to identify our needs. He failed to identify our needs for public safety. He failed to identify our budgetary needs for the city. And now he's threatening us, or I'm sorry, the federal government, if they don't bail him out, that he's going to do X, Y, Z. So he just misses the mark constantly. And my opponent, Tom Suozzi. Meanwhile, Congressman Lee Zeldin is busy in Washington securing funding for PPE and PPP in his district. My congressman, Tom Suozzi, was too busy around taking photo ops, not observing social distancing, and carrying out boxes of gloves and masks. I'm sorry, the nurses and the doctors and the first responders didn't need boxes. They needed containers. They needed full whole shipments of tractor trailers, not 2-3 cardboard boxes for your photo ops. So unfortunately, that's when I say they missed the mark. We had actual Congress people who went to work. As I said, Congressman Lee Zeldin secured over $235 million worth of PPP and I'm sorry, PPE. And Congressman Tom Suozzi just was worried about hugging doctors during a pandemic and taking pictures with boxes. So it's you know, and our governor, who, look, I don't like making bold statements, especially when it comes to death. But what he did in our nursing homes is, I think it's pretty clear he doesn't care, right? They don't care. They don't represent. It's all about themselves, and I think that that's largely the problem with the Democratic Party. You heard Joe Biden say, "I am the Democratic Party." So
I think they'll be coming back to get him.
Yeah, if that means anything to anyone, that should be very troubling.
Exactly. And Tom Suozzi is like a lifelong politician. He's been in there for quite some time with different Congress, county executive.
So yeah, he's a lifelong failure. He failed as mayor and he destroyed the city of the town of Glen Cove. Then he decided to become county executive and made Nassau County the most expensive county in all of the United States. Not in New York State, not in the Northeast, not in the North, in the entire country. He increased taxes enormously and then took a huge pay raise at the same time. It was a scandalous administration, followed by, you know, his desire for power. Then he ran for governor, failed, and somehow, some way ended up in Congress. when Steve Israel stepped down from his seat. I just can't comprehend how does a man that hurts Nassau County the way he did ended up being 58% of Nassau County's congressman. It just mind boggles me.
Right. No, that is very sad and insane. Can you tell me, because being a young millennial running for Congress, how do you think that the GOP itself, how can you get more young people involved to come out, canvass with you, help, and just involved in politics in general?
I actually do that daily. So I think it's so cool. The majority of my volunteers are sub 25-year-olds,
Wow.
people who never got involved, people who never had a slight clue. I have a bunch of actually 16 and 17-year-olds that we actually had to check if, and it's totally legal. And yes, they can, so long as their parents consent and whatnot, and you sign the proper documentations and waivers of responsibility, because you're going to be entering another person's car and whatnot, but super safe, right? We have such a youthful following, and they're excited and they're engaged and they're energized. And I think that that's just because I'm relatable. I'm 32 years old. I'm not that much older than they are. I understand what their mind thought process is, and I speak their lingo. I talk to them as an equal, and I think all they're looking is for somebody who gets them, right? And I've learned something interesting, that this, I don't know the generations exactly, but there's this weird conservative uproar between 18 and 22, 23-year-olds that is super interesting to watch. They're all their parents are millennials for sure. Maybe some boomers here and there, but the majority are millennials, and their kids are super uber conservative. So I don't know if we're on to the second wave of boomers, and that's going to be the kids of the millennials. Right. But I'm pretty excited to what the future has in store for our future generations of leaders. Yeah, it's going to be more conservative than ours. That's for sure, Ian.
And as basically a new age Republican in some ways, you're openly gay, you're running in New York State. What is that like, running for public office as a Republican, in particular as a gay man?
First ever congressional candidate who is an openly gay man to be endorsed in New York State. That's history. And I think that's good history. That shows inclusion. That shows the real progress that the Republican Party has made throughout the years. We were the ones who abolished slavery, segregation. We gave women equal rights. That's who we are. And here I am to prove, I'm living proof. I am, and it's successful. And when elected, as I say, I'll be the first openly gay man in Congress as a Republican, right? Because the Dems beat us to that. But I think that just shows that everything that the Dems try to tell us is a lie. There are gay people in the Republican Party. I mean, there's a whole movement called the Log Cabin Republicans. So for me, it's so much more of an accomplishment. I feel like, you know how all these people like to hold these identity politic titles? First woman to Congress, first Puerto Rican to Congress. And I'm talking about the same Congresswoman, if you know who I'm talking about.
I think we know who.
Yeah, she carries all these titles of the first this, first that. And unfortunately, after years being in Congress, she has no accomplishments, you know, and great, you broke a bunch of glass ceilings, do something with it. I want to do something with it. I want to show the whole country that the fact that my private life, and I am a gay man, doesn't interfere in my moral beliefs, doesn't interfere in the fact that I believe in the family unit, doesn't interfere in any of that. I think that the family unit's very important in this country, and the fact that we're throwing it away is why we're having so much issues, and all these young troubled minds are growing to believing that organizations like Antifa are good. You know, so like I said, I think this is for the New York GOP. I give them kudos for backing me the way they have, and the chairman and all the other county chairs have been super supportive, and the entire organization. I mean, I can't say of a bad situation I've encountered, you know, other than on Twitter being called all sorts of derogatory slurs by liberals, you know. So it's really, it's an interesting world we live in, Ian.
Well, it's sad because it goes to the land of projection.
Exactly.
They can sit on Twitter and say the other F word to you and then tell you you're racist, you're a homophobe. Just, it's projection, it's nonsense, and it's upsetting.
Exactly.
I'm glad that you're out there proving them wrong.
Absolutely. And I'm proud to do it too.
So can you tell us how people watching can support your campaign?
We are on the final stretch. 32 days till election, 32 days for the fight of your life, 32 days for the second American Revolution. That's exactly what this is. This is the second American Revolution, and it will go down in history. We need everyone watching, everybody that sees this after it airs, to please get involved. Go on my website, george4ny.com. It's georgeforny.com. And so, click to volunteer. If you can make phone calls, great. If you can door knock, even better. I'll walk with you. If you can donate, that's always important. We need a boatload of money to get the message out there. And I don't want to make it about money. I'm not asking you for $1 million. I'm asking you for 5, 10, 25, whatever you can part with, because every bit counts. We send a mailer to our donors every 2 weeks, and it says, keep George on the radio. It's $47. Keep George on social media. It keeps the message going. And then there's a packet. It's very important. But I will say this, get involved. If you can make phone calls, we need at least another 50 people to do phone banking for us before Election Day. If you can donate, please donate. If you're good at calling people and asking them for small dollar amounts of money, sign up too. If you want to walk. If you want a lawn sign pitched on your lawn, you can contact us and we'll come and put it. And if you want, I'll come and do it myself. So any way you can get involved is absolutely appreciated. And hey, share this video, and that's a form of helping too.
Absolutely. We just had the link to your website was just up on our screen, so everyone knows where you are and can contact you, volunteer, hopefully get on your mailing list and find out how they can help before Election Day, and also how important it is to help on Election Day.
Oh yeah, Election Day is going to be important because we're looking at what the Dems are doing, right? They're crushing us on this absolute nonsense of absentee ballot. And the governor made it okay for you to request a ballot, vote on your mail-in ballot, and then vote in person, because apparently the Board of Elections is very well equipped to cancel out the votes if you voted twice. I find that terribly troubling to believe.
Right. Well, George, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave us with tonight?
I will say this. No matter if it's my campaign or a campaign within your district or a neighboring district, somewhere across the country, get involved. Don't be silent. Let's not be the silent majority no more. Let's be the loudest majority of there is. We need to get excited. We need to vote for our president, Donald Trump. We need to vote down ballot Republican, and we need to save this country from socialism, Marxism, and communism. If AOC had it her way, we wouldn't be having this video conference. So think about that. Thank you very much for all your support. Thank you very much for anything you can do and you have done to support my candidacy. And I look forward to representing the entire country in DC next year in 2021.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. You have the entire support of the Metropolitan Republican Club. Thank you for the torch you're carrying and being the first. And we would love to welcome you when we open and have you come visit us. And we'll do everything that we can to make sure your district goes red and you become a congressman. Thank you, George.
Thank you so much, Ian. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.